episode 17 of all Beatles songs ranked. We're in the top 20, top 21. Now it's number 21. 21 is my lucky number, by the way. Number 21, The Word from Rubber Soul. And maybe this is the last song that's more like a deep cut. I guess all the 20 songs, the next 20 songs are classics. Some of the most known and most highly regarded pop songs ever made. But The Word is maybe one of the last, songs that, of course, every Beatles fan knows, but maybe the general public, there are some people who don't know this track, but they should know it. It's my number 21. Maybe it's the first real psychedelic Beatles song, if you can call it psychedelic. It's the first song where lyrics about love are not like about holding hands and kissing girls and innocent boyfriend-girlfriend stuff like that. It's love in a general, in a more philosophical way, and that makes it stick out. The bass is great, the harmonium or whatever that instrument is called is such a great idea. And an interesting side story about that song is that it was a major element in John and Yoko getting together in a way, and also in the everlasting feud between Paul McCartney and Yoko Ono, because when Yoko Ono first came to England in 1966, in early 1966 or in mid 1966, she came from New York she was a famous concept artist at that time in New York, and she came to England. And she wanted a friend from the artist's circle of hers was John Cage, the famous avant-garde, classical avant-garde composer. And he collected as a hobby, sheets of music by great masters, like the original handwriting of Mozart for this or Beethoven of that. And she thought it would be a nice or funny birthday present for John Cage to give him the original sheets for one of the Lennon-McCartney songs. So the first Beatle, she knocked on Paul McCartney's door first. That was the first time a Beatle met Yoko Ono, was when Yoko Ono, without announcing herself, she just knocked on his door, and he was at home. He opened the door and he asked her, "Who are you? What do you want?" And she said, "Do you have anything written down, a song that you wrote? I want to make a present to John Cage." And he said, "Let me have a look. Oh no, I can't find anything. But I ask my friend John. I've a mate John. I write the songs with him. Just ask him." And then he gave her the contact of John Lennon. She asked John Lennon, and John Lennon gave her the sheet for The Word, and she allegedly gave this as a birthday present to John Cage. So, The Word, love, for John Lennon, it really turned out love. Number 20, and of course, now we're in rumor territory, but of course there's the rumor that when that first meeting between Paul and Yoko happened, maybe something more happened, not just that conversation. Maybe, it was usually when Paul McCartney in those swinging London times opened his door and a girl was at the door. You can. I don't want to talk further about it, but maybe that was the root of their rivalry was there. You can make up your own mind about that. Number 20 is Help, also from 1965. It's one of John Lennon's own favorites. John Lennon, in interviews when he was asked what his favorite Beatles songs ever were, he often quoted Help, because it was so personal to him. It was course a song about the struggle with fame, how you lose your perception of reality, and how everything is moving so fast, and the ego problems, and all the pressure. Help was like a cry for help, of course, for help in that regard. Yeah, a great song. Number 19, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, one of the big psychedelic songs. This is the opposite. John Lennon never liked, maybe he liked the song, but he didn't like the recording. He once said that he thought it was a terrible recording of that song, but I disagree. I think the recording is the great thing about the song. Many things about the song are great, but especially the recording is great. It's a great, it's one of those arrangements where maybe John, like with Tomorrow Never Knows and Strawberry Fields, he didn't get his way, and it wasn't the way he intended. It would have been too much effort, but it's a great psychedelic recording. The lyrics, this is one when I started to become a Beatles fan. This was one of those songs I was really impressed with. The early favorite songs, they remain your favorite songs in a way, and this was one of the songs when I was really when the lyrics really resonated with me. Number 18 is the next of those kind of songs, the other big, or one of the three big psychedelic John Lennon masterpieces. It's or four, maybe it's four masterpieces. It's Strawberry Fields Forever. Some people think this is the best song ever. I also think it's one of the best songs ever. It's my number 18. It's another song where John Lennon had different intentions for how it should sound. He wanted it more intimate and more like a ballad. But again, I think he was wrong, and I'm glad that George Martin and Paul McCartney in the end convinced him to make a big production, because the song wouldn't be the same without this big psychedelic production. The Mellotron intro, of course, by Paul McCartney, is one of the great things. But again, this is also a song where the lyrics are the big star. Great, like with Help, great introspective lyrics about John Lennon's insecurities. The next one is number 17, again, John Lennon, Revolution. We've had Revolution 1, the version on the White Album. I think it was like number 100 or something like that, so I don't really like the recording of Revolution 1. Revolution 1 was the first recording of that song, and again, it's like a thread we have. Like with the previous two songs, Strawberry Fields Forever and Lucy in the Sky, John Lennon wanted it to be an intimate ballad, and he got his way on the White Album version with Revolution 1. But again, it was people like Paul McCartney and George Martin who suggested a more commercial version, a quicker, more up-tempo version. And again, I'm glad they had their way. I think it wouldn't have had the same impact with only the White Album version. My favorite version is neither. It's not the released single version, and it's not the White Album version. It's the version they played kind of live. They just sang it on top of a backing track, but semi-live. The version they did for TV with the background vocals. To me, that's the definitive version of that song, and it's one of the best political rock songs of the 60s or ever. It's a great song. And I also like the single version because it's the version where he sings, if you want destruction, don't you know that you can count me out? And I think that's really, that's what the message of the song should be. And on the White Album version he sings, don't you know that you can count me out in? So it's like, maybe you can count me in. But that's not the message. you know, it shouldn't be about violence. That's the whole thing should be about being against the war, in my opinion. So I'm a fan of the single version. Number 16 is Paperback Writer from 1966. Great song, you know. It's the third of the letter songs, you know. At the very beginning, in the first episode, I told you that Paul McCartney had like 3 letter songs in the Beatles, because in the first episode we had P.S. I Love You, which was like one of my least favorite Beatles songs. All My Loving, like in the middle, and Paperback Writer is like the best of the letter kind of songs. It's one of those songs John Lennon referred to as a song about boring people doing boring things. But you know, if it sounds that exciting, you know, it must be great to be a paperback writer if it sounds like that. Number 15 is, you know, from now on I can tell you, I just wanted to tell you one of my favorite songs. From now on, every song is one of my favorite songs. But this is now where we are at the place where this is really one of my favorite songs. We Can Work It Out. To me, the best single ever produced is the double A side, maybe the mother of all double A side singles. I think it was the first double A side single, and it was the We Can Work It Out Day Tripper single. And We Can Work It Out is such a great song, you know. That's the perfect Lennon-McCartney song in a way. It has the optimism of Paul McCartney and the more pessimistic, more introspective John Lennon, and they work together perfectly on that song. And even as a third element, it has George Harrison's personality also in it, because the waltz bit that links the verses with the chorus were George Harrison's idea. So it's a great team effort, and it's really a bit, you know, it's kind of what's the word? It's kind of weird or a bit almost creepy that John's idea to that song, because I thought it's too optimistic. John's idea was to sing "Life is very short and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend," which is like he's looking into the future, and that's exactly what kind of happened, you know, when John was killed. Because, you know, the song of course can be and should be interpreted also as a song about their relationship in a way. Lennon-McCartney, great song. Number 14 is maybe to some, you know, it used to be regarded the best song or the biggest song of all time. It was all in the Guinness Book of Records, the song with most radio airplay and most covered song. It's Yesterday. What can you say about Yesterday? I think everything has been told about it, and I'm not going to tell you the story how Paul wrote that song, because that's of course one of those stories, like the Let It Be story, that Paul McCartney basically tells in every interview he's given in the past 50 years. You know, as Paul McCartney fans, we really hate when the question comes, how did you write Yesterday? That's the moment we really hate, because you could ask him so many things. Why do you want him to tell that story again for the millionth time? So I'm not going to tell you this story. And basically it's the same story as with Let It Be, you know, the dream. The dream songs. Number 13 is one of those, you know, it seems like I'm a psychedelic guy. All those great psychedelic songs are in those last episodes. Now it's time for Tomorrow Never Knows from Revolver 1966. You know, Revolver wouldn't have needed this song as the last song. You know, the 13 songs before that, it would have been one of the 5 best albums of all time with those 13 songs. But to put this as the last song on an already perfect album, and, you know, to reinvent pop music basically in 3 minutes at the end of an already glorious triumph of an album, that's so impressive. You know, that was the most revolutionary pop song up until that time, I think, you know, not avant-garde, you know, there were people like Stockhausen. This song, of course, is inspired by their work, but this was the real pop song that was that radical. And, you know, you have to admire that, you know, the biggest pop band of their time making such a song. Again, with all those psychedelic productions, John Lennon again wasn't satisfied with the way the recording was done. You know, he couldn't tell his vision in a way to George Martin and Chief Emmerich, the engineer, that they could, you know, translate into music. There's a great interview with Chief Emmerich on YouTube where he's talking about his problems, the problems he had with John Lennon. That John Lennon always complains about Chief Emmerich, that he didn't, you know, make the things that he wanted, but he couldn't, you know, really tell him the way he wanted it. And that's in Chief Emmerich's opinion, that was the big difference between Paul and John. Paul could always tell in musical language to Geoff and to George Martin what he wanted, and John never could, and later always bitched about it. But you know, why did he bitch about those things? Those songs are perfect the way they are. Great song. Number 12, the invention of heavy metal, of punk rock or whatever, Helter Skelter from the White Album. At that time, like with Tomorrow Never Knows, Tomorrow Never Knows was, when it was released, maybe the most radical pop song, and 2 years later Helter Skelter, you know, picked up on that and became the most radical pop song at that time. It was inspired by Paul McCartney reading an interview with Pete Townsend of The Who. They just recorded I Can See for Miles, and Pete Townsend proudly told the interviewer, "We've just recorded the fucking heaviest song of all time, no one will top this." And Paul McCartney told this to the other Beatles and said, "We are the biggest band in the world, we should have the best songs in every in every style, we should top this," and they did. Number 11 is also from the White Album. It's really sad that this can't be in the top 10, but you know, you have to decide which 10 songs are your top 10. This didn't make it. Dear Prudence from the White Album. This is also one of my favorite songs. Maybe it's one or two of the top 10 songs. Maybe I like Dear Prudence personally more than one or two songs from the top 10. But it wouldn't be fair because the next 10 songs are like such big songs, they have to be the top 10. But you know, personally, Dear Prudence really resonates with me. It's about Mia Farrow's sister, you know, again, like we've had Donovan with them teaching them stuff in India. We've had Mike Love from the Beach Boys inspiring the Beatles in India. But also Mia Farrow, the actress, and her sister Prudence also were in India at the time when the Beatles were there. And this song is basically about Prudence. You know, there are conflicting versions of that story. Maybe I'm not going to tell you. Maybe you read it up. You know, I can't say which is the true story. But it culminates with, you know, Prudence not wanting to go out of her bungalow, and John Lennon singing this song to her to make her come out and join the others. And musically, it's one of my favorite songs ever. Again, Paul McCartney on drums. That was also the session, one of those sessions after Ringo left for 2 weeks. And to me, it's one of my favorite drum parts ever. A friend of mine who's a drummer, once we've listened to the White Album in his car, and when Dear Prudence came on, he said, "Wow, terrible drums. What's up with Ringo? And I told him, this is not Ringo, this is Paul. But at the same time, I couldn't understand why he doesn't like the drums. But I think to a drummer, maybe it's out of time and it's not really played professionally. But I think it's a very artistic kind of way. It's a groovy way of playing drums, and it's one of my, this. It has so much character that the drum fill. It's not. I can see why a professional drummer wouldn't like that, the drum part. But from an artistic angle, it's one of my favorite drum parts. It's almost part of the composition. And yeah, those were the songs 21 to 11, and the next episode is going to be the top 10 best Beatles songs of all time.